tonight, and thank you, Betsy, and everyone who takes time to put this together. It's really such a special thing to come together and use our voices in a powerful way to create positive change. And like Betsy said, my name is Monisha, and this topic is very close to my heart and quite vulnerable for me to get up in front of a group of people and share. I think the conversation about racism and our unconscious racial bias and privilege that we carry is quite tender. And I think in the past, for me, I shied away from it because I just really felt unseen and unheard in the communities that I was a part of. So I thank you all for opening the door to listening to a part of my story. And so just to right off the bat, how many people are really troubled by the state of our political climate right now? And how many people are kind of shocked that this is what's going on in 2016 in America? Yeah, me too. And how many people really want to do something about it? Yeah, me too. And it's one thing to vote in November, which is important, and it's going to take a lot more than a vote to pull out the diseased parts of humanity and make a positive change. So that's what I'd like to talk a little bit about today. See what I'm saying. So it is important for me to first and foremost acknowledge this community, because I know that every single person is here because we care. We want to do good in the world. We are committed to doing good in the world. We are holding space for a utopian society. So thank you for doing that. But the damn truth is that we are not living in a world that is equal for all. We know that we are equal. We know that we all created the same. We know that there's one energy and one love. Like, this community understands that. But the truth of the matter is that if a black man can be shot and killed for selling CDs, and a white privileged youth can get 6 months in prison for committing rape, something is very, very wrong. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Thank you. So, I have to call myself out. 3 years ago, the Black Lives Matter movement started. And a dear friend of mine is a co-founder of that movement. And honestly, I was seeing all these posts on Facebook, and I was under the mindset that what you focus on is what you create. How many of you believe that? Cool. So I let that turn me away from the race relations in this country and in the world, because I did not want to contribute to racism by focusing on it. And then something happened. Well, a lot of things have happened. We're all waking up. But in February, I went to Wisdom 2.0. How many of you know what Wisdom 2.0 is? Well, it's a great conference. It is a conversion of technology and mindfulness in the Bay Area. I highly recommend going. There's some really cool stuff happening. But while I was there, John Kabat-Zinn and Jack Kornfield really called out the mindfulness community and basically said, if you are not looking at this diseased part of humanity, you are not practicing mindfulness. And in fact, it is a spiritual bypass. How many of you know what spiritual bypass is? I mean, too. I was super guilty of it. I mean, if you know me in my life, I'm very all love. Look to the good, focus on the good, focus on the love. And in order to transform anything, we need to be able to see that it exists. So, I also have a belief system that what lives in the outer world is a reflection of what's in the inner world. How many of you attest to that? Okay. So that really tugged at me deeply. Because if there are actions like people being killed for the color of their skin, and people getting off of crimes because of the color of their skin, where am I, in me, holding a level of racism and prejudice within? Because if it is out there, somewhere it's in me. And I started to look. I started to look at where my prejudices are and where my privilege exists. And so my ask for this community is for you to do the same. Just take that in for a moment. So, like I said, this is really edgy for me. So I'm going to ask you to go to your edge as well. So I'm going to take a moment to name a few privileges that exist in the world. And I would love for you to just get in your space the way that you do and take notice if you benefit from these privileges. Okay? Can you play that game again? Okay, so again, just take time to feel into whether you benefit from this level of privilege. Are you white? Are you a man? Are you thin or attractive? Do you have money? Come from money? Have enough money? Are you educated? Have access to education? Are you straight? Just take some time to consider, not to feel guilty for our privileges, but to consider that we might be privileged in ways that others are not. And if we are a stand for a world that works for everyone, and a stand for one love, what can we do to help those that don't have these privileges? How can we use our power for good? Can I play the game?
Can we get some lights? Turn it down, please.
Are you not or are you not? Several months ago, in response to Ferguson, Baltimore, kids on Freddie Gray, attacking the riots, my friend came in one of our Facebook posts, breaking out the difference.
Maybe put the microphone up to the speaker. Yeah.
So I have a question for you. Are you not or are you not? Several months ago, in response to Ferguson, Baltimore, riots, my friend came in. So I have a question for you. Are you not or are you not? Several months ago, in response to Ferguson, Baltimore, kids on Freddie Gray, attacking the riots, my friend came in one of our Facebook breaking down the difference between non-racism and anti-racism. Most of us are non-racist because racism is looked upon as some moral lapse. We feel quite self-assured that I'm simply not racist. I'm not a bigot. I don't sing that N-word when my favorite rap jam comes on. I didn't vote for that guy. I'm not burning any crosses. I'm not a skinhead. I don't, I won't, I'm not, I've never, I can't. What you end up with is an entire moral stance, an entire code for living your life and dealing with all the injustice in the world by not doing a damn thing. That's the great thing about that. You can put it off by simply rolling over in your bed and going to sleep. So why are you sitting at home and watching things unfold on TV instead of doing something about it? Because you're a non-racist, not an anti-racist. Now do this for it. Take the C out of racist and replace it with a P. I'm not a rapist. I'm not friends with any rapist. I didn't buy that rapist last album. All these things that make my doing. Meanwhile, people are still getting raped. And black boys are being killed. It's not enough that you don't do these things. You're going to bed with a clear conscience is not going to stop college students from getting assaulted. You thinking climate change is terrible is not going to stop climate change. You being so sure that you're not anti-black, anti-Muslim won't stop the next hate crime. And it's wonderful that you recognize how brave gay people are when facing persecution, but they're the ones who need to be brave. We need to get active. We need to hold people accountable. We need to accept that what hurts one of us hurts all of us. And we need to stop thinking that injustice going on in the world is to an extent our fault. We need to stop being non and start being anti.
So how y'all doing? I would love to get a few responses from the crowd. Is anything coming up for anyone in this conversation?
For me, it just brings home the idea of that I didn't get a chance to say because I ran out of time. I think it's really, really important in our day-to-day lives to extend ourselves to people who are outside of our normal social circle and to start making connections with people who are different from us. Because it's where we resist that and stay in our own place that's where we engender conflict. We don't really know the other people. We don't feel connected to them. So that's what I
Thank you. Yes, Andrew.
Well, I hit all 6 of those bullet points. That really hit home for me, and how important it is for that privilege that I've been fortunately born into to use that power for good in the world.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Yeah. Anyone else? Yep.
Another thing that I feel like this topic has been coming up just so much, but just looking inward and looking at my ancestral line, it's just acknowledging the truth that where it stems from the hate. As ugly as that sounds, I don't want to sound like my family comes from profession. For those that come from privilege, we categorize the 6 or the 5, even just 4 of those, looking at why and where it comes from, and looking into the past and just hearing some, for instance, my mom's from a different country, my dad is from here, and just getting to know where his roots are and how the vocabulary, the perception, the beliefs, it's very limiting. And it's almost, I'm ashamed that I come from that and hearing just the word of discriminating. And I can be embarrassed about it, or I can just have that awareness.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I know we're at time, so I just want to round up. The intention of this talk is to open the conversation. And this, I don't have a solution. I have some practices that I'll quickly share that I'm doing for myself. And if they resonate with you, great. I'm talking to all my white friends about my experience growing up in a white culture. And that has been so profound. Thank you all for being so open to hearing what I have to say. I'm looking at where racism and prejudice lives in me, and I am really owning my privilege. And I'm doing the work to eradicate hate and violence from my life. And whether that's in a inflicting space or the way that I show up with my family. So like I said, do not have all the answers. I think this is the very beginning of a huge conversation that I would really love to see happen more in this community, because we do live in a bubble. We do. And there's a whole world out there that needs more of what we have if we are willing to go deep into the conversation, see the yucky disease, and transform it with love. Not just pretend it's not there and hope that the love over here is going to be enough, because it is not. And right now, in this political climate, there's an urgency, because at the end of the day, and I'm just going to get personal for a moment, if this hate rhetoric continues around Muslims and blacks and Mexicans in this country, there is a difference between you and me. There is. I cannot take off my skin. Cannot. So if shit hits the fan, we gotta come together. And so I would love to see us do that now, rather than after the shit is smeared all over the walls. So, thank you all.